let's jump into the foundations checklist. And this is geared towards Shopify sites. And so if you're on Shopify Plus, this is kind of geared towards a Shopify site. It can be translated to Magento and BigCommerce and some of these other sites, but this is geared towards Shopify. So this is the Shopify SEO foundations checklist. Number 1, sitemap. And when I say sitemaps, I don't mean the physical file. Shopify automatically creates the physical file, and you should definitely take that and syndicate it to in your search console. If you don't know what that is, get a search, open up a search console account, make sure that you have your sitemap syndicated appropriately. But when I say sitemap, I actually mean the structuring and organization of your entire site and product line. And so literally on paper or on a Word doc, list out your collections and your products, all your collections, how they're grouped, and your pages, and make sure that they're logical, that they make sense to users. Literally think about them as if they're in navigation, right? And first and second level navigation. You really shouldn't have, more than 2 levels, definitely not more than 3 levels in navigation. And so you really want to make that organization the thing that drives everything else you do. And so all your products, logical categorization, groupings of your products and pages, and make sure they're not banging into each other and overlapping and competing with each other. Second thing is products. And so for your products, there's some basics, right? Let's make sure that your title's not too long. Let's make sure you don't include product options in your title. So don't say, red t-shirt. Hopefully you say something else about the t-shirt, something unique about the t-shirt, right? This is the Growth Rebel t-shirt, right? I don't say gray, because gray is a product option. And oftentimes people do put product options into the titles, and that's not necessary, and it creates other issues. Make sure that your description, that your titles are descriptive as well, but not too long. Then, within products, make sure that our description is unique, helpful, and not too long as well. By unique, a lot of people can, use a description template and then copy and paste it across a lot of different products that are very similar to each other. Make sure that if you're doing that, you're adjusting it enough. And ideally, make sure that description is selling that product specifically, because it's really marketing copy. And so if it's generic or the same on every product, it's not going to do its job very well. And then on the product detail pages, we've talked about this before, but you can use them to create extended descriptions down the page. Create more content on, why did you create that product, the story behind it. Maybe there's additional features and benefits and content that relates to the problem that someone's trying to solve in their life, which your product is part of. And maybe there's other things that you can add as far as content there. You have an opportunity to make your product detail page something that actually ranks for the content on the page in search engines. And that's critical. And if you could do that really, really well, when your product detail pages start ranking for actual search terms, then that's really strong. Now, also make sure that they don't compete with other products. Okay, and so as you're writing those descriptions, think about the thing you want it to rank for, right? And ideally, you don't want to have multiple products trying to rank for the same terms, because that's competing and it's just hurting yourself. All right, on to the next one, collections. The collection pages can often become very messy because people create them for promotions and other things. So decide on your cornerstone collections. Those are the collections that are key, that you've defined in your sitemap at the beginning. And add descriptions to your collections, and then even add additional copy to your collections that can go maybe below the product grid if it's too long, because we don't want to push the product grid down too far. But we love for our collection pages to be landing pages, and we talk about how we use collection pages as landing pages in other articles. But there's an opportunity for those to be landing pages and for those to rank. But we also want to make sure, just like products, they don't compete with each other. Also, on the URL side, let's make sure the URLs are consistent and simple across all products, or across all collections. All right, number 4, pages. All right, we wanna make sure that they don't compete with each other. Now, it's not as hard with pages because you might have an about page and you might have a privacy page, right? They're not gonna compete with each other that way, but still, you might have many brand pages, right? One about your story, one about the history of your company, other things like that. Make sure that they don't compete with each other. Make sure that they have simple URLs. Make sure that they're fast. All right, the next one, blogs. Shopify blogs are confusing for a lot of people because there are no categories. Each blog is considered a category and you can create multiple blogs. And so one tip is don't create multiple blogs, just have one. And we talk about how to create the perfect e-commerce blog in other videos. And part of that is not calling it blog. No one wants to read your blog, and people want to read something else. And so while that's not an SEO tip, I think that's important as you're creating your Shopify blog. Make it something that's related to your brand. It's best to stay simple on the structure here. And now you can use tags as categories within a single blog. Now, let's make sure that as you're writing, you're not writing posts that are competing with your homepage or your other products. So if you're writing about a need that your product solves, be careful about competing in search engines with your other products as you're writing those blogs. All right, the next one, images and media. Now, this is key to a great site. We talk about how we can bring the product to the customer in the best way, even though they can't touch it. And images and media are a critical part of that. But if they're done wrong, they can slow down your site and they can make your site cumbersome. Now Shopify does a really good job at optimizing those images as long as you're using the right type of theme and your theme is built the right way. But that's not automatic. And so there's some technical things that you need to make sure are there so that your images are optimized within your theme. And this goes for any platform, by the way, any e-commerce platform. Let's make sure that your images have alt tags so that they're searchable and they're ADA accessible. When there's text over an image, let's make sure that ideally, the text is not on the image. Okay, so when we're doing hero images, sometimes that's unavoidable, but if possible, have that text be dynamic on the image so that it can be really read by for accessibility, and it's easier for that text to be indexed, is the word I'm looking for in the search engines. We also want it optimized for size, right? And so the image size, like the physical weight of the image, needs to be optimized for the size of the screen, for different speeds as well. And there's some great plugins that do this automatically, so you can create one image and the plugin will optimize the various versions of the image so that you're not serving giant images for a small image on a screen. All right, next, reviews. Reviews are critical for selling at any stage of your site, including when you're ranking in organic search or in paid ads or on Google Shopping. So we've talked about how to do this, how reviews should be set up, but you need to make sure that your reviews are syndicated to the right platforms like Google, Bing, etc. In order to do that, you need to have the right reviews platform, you need to have the settings correct, you need to have the right accounts on those other platforms, and we go into how to do that in other videos. But this is a critical part and a critical part on the checklist to having your search engine optimization, search engine basics down. Can't really talk today. All right, next one, 301 redirects. All right, be aware of pages, products, and collections that change URLs. This happens really often, right? So like someone gets in there on your team and they duplicate a product, which is often the case, to create a new product. They duplicate one that exists already, and they may not change the title. They may, so the title says, -2 or -3 on it. It won't be exact, but it'll be very similar. And there'll be remnants of things across the board. They may actually create a new product. You may create a new product, and you might want to get rid of the old product, right, for a new version. All these different things can create issues if you don't have the right 301 redirects in place, and you're not paying attention to those things. Same goes for collections. Same goes for pages. And so make sure that as you're moving content around on a daily basis, you're aware of creating the right 301 redirects as needed and adjusting those URLs as well. Now, if you're migrating from another platform, like let's say you're coming from Magento, which we do that quite often. You're coming from Magento, you're going to Shopify Plus. Because the platforms are different, the URLs for all your products and all your pages are not going to be exactly the same, because it's sometimes not possible for them to be the same. And so you're going to have to create 301 redirects for that map all your old URLs to your new URLs. And that's critical in launching any site that's been replatformed or migrated. You'll also have to bring over any 301 redirects that exist on your old platform as well and migrate those over to Shopify as well. And so that is a critical part of the SEO checklist. All right, the next one, meta stuff. This includes product descriptions, meta product descriptions, title tags, and those kind of things. Those are still very important, but they're less important about optimizing the kind of ranking of in the search engines. And they're more important about convincing someone to click through to your listing when that thing is actually there. Right, so if someone searches for a term and you show up for it, those meta descriptions and some of those meta tags are what show up underneath your listing. And you need to write those as if they were marketing copy to convince someone to click. And so what happens is a lot of times we use the same one across the entire site. And it's just a generic meta description and some of that other information. And it does no good in trying to convince someone to click through. And the click through from your listing on a search engine to your site actually is a factor in you getting ranked higher. So the more click through you get, the higher you can be ranked. So that's why all the meta tags and meta descriptions and titles and those kind of things are important. All right, next, syndication. We want to be syndicating our products and our reviews to the relevant platforms so that they can be indexed, so that they can exist in paid platforms, paid ad platforms, etc. And so that's to Google Merchant Center, Google Shopping, Bing, etc. All of the ad platforms. Same with reviews. And we kind of go into that deeper in other places where we go into how to pick and set up the right reviews platform. All right, next thing, speed. Speed is essential, and it's obviously something that should be on every SEO checklist. It's one of the key ranking factors. And so when we're looking at speed, we're looking at image sizes, we're looking at JavaScript, we're looking at, is your theme built correctly? Who developed your theme? Is it bulky? Does it have a lot of unneeded code in it? Or is it trim and streamlined? Also, apps. Most Shopify stores have tons of apps and they don't use them all, right? So like people install apps and test them out and leave them there. People may install apps for certain promotions and not use them for the rest of the year. And apps, every time they're installed, they have code that runs, and that code slows down the store. And sometimes when you remove it, that code doesn't even get removed. And so cleaning out your apps, being careful about the apps that you do install is a critical part of keeping your speed as fast as it can be, and is a critical ranking factor. Next, structured data. Structured data is something that really ultimately ends up in Google being able to, or any search engine being able to take bite-sized parts of your different pages and show them to the user in different ways. And so we've all seen, if you type something in Google, there's that little listing at the top where there's drop downs and there might be questions and answers from different sites. That comes from structured data. It also makes for nice listings. And so all you need to know here is there are some great plugins that help you get to this place. You also have to have a theme that allows for structured data, but it's very important and very useful, and it's a good advantage when you can do it. All right, next one, experience. The experience of your site is a big part of SEO, right? When a user clicks through to your site and stays on your site from a search engine, the people like Google, because they're all powerful and all knowing, they know that. And they know that someone's clicked through and converted, especially if you're using Google Analytics, right? And so the fact that someone actually finds you on a search engine, clicks through to your site, and actually stays on your site, engages with it, and then actually converts is a big factor in you ranking, because Google wants to send users to some place that fulfills their need that they're searching for. And so converting is a big indicator that site worked, that your site worked. And so we want to be optimizing our experience and converting people and getting our conversion rate up for as much traffic as possible and remove any junk traffic. Mobile is the next one here. So we all know this. Clean mobile experience is critical, period, right? It has to work on every device, and it has to be very fast on mobile. In fact, that is actually a more important ranking factor than desktop these days. Last one is backlinks. These are still important to any search engine, and the way to do this is, do joint ventures and collaborations with other brands. We talk about how to use PR in e-commerce. So get a PR company, a good one, and get quality backlinks, from really great publications. These are great factors. These are great ways to build up your backlinks, and don't be afraid to ask and reciprocate those links to other brands in that family. And so make friends with other brands, and you can help each other in that way. All right, so that is the 15-point Shopify SEO checklist, the foundations checklist. Just to sum this up, clearly SEO is important, but it can't be the tail that wags the dog. It needs to be customer experience first, and then optimizing second. But the goal is just, let's not get in our way with all the basic things we do day to day. Build a foundation, and then create initiatives to grow that. So this list is to help you create that foundation and get out of your way and not be hurting yourself every time you're doing it. So go through this list maybe once a quarter, once a month, twice a year, and make sure that you're doing these things well. And if you're not, just quickly optimize them. And look, if you want to grow your Shopify Plus store, or you want to create a content strategy for e-commerce that works, and you're a brand that has sales momentum, you have some traction, contact us, and we'd love to help. Thanks, and never stop growing.